Yes, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, Trustee Williams. Co-chairs for this committee as we wait for the presentation to come up are co-chairs Frank Williams, Trustee Frank Williams, and Trustee Wayne Watts. Also, it's the one on the right. There you go. Also, if you go to the second page, Dr. Swoop, you'll see other members that are part of this committee. Trustee Ball, Trustee Cronkite, Trustee Gainey, Trustee Tiffany Cole, and Trustee Chris Robinson. Please advance the slide, please. So as we get started today for the marketing, communication, and advancement presentation, let's talk just a minute about COVID-19 and the new normal. And so some of the challenges that have been presented due to COVID are limited person-to-person engagement. That's a big deal when you're in the marketing field and you're a fundraiser. But that's creating an opportunity for more virtual engagement. Also, limited or lack of travel. Well, that creates an opportunity for repurposing funding that we have. A loss of employment nationally, which impacts our alumni, it impacts our constituents in terms of the corporations that are out there as well. So the opportunity there is a great emphasis perhaps on education. And then you have the economic and social unrest in America, which also creates opportunities for new engagements and partnerships. Next slide, please. So in terms of internal communications, particularly with COVID-19, Mr. Jerome St. Jones, who served as the Director of Marketing and Public Relations, meets weekly since COVID began. He meets weekly with a number of representatives across the campus that represent facilities, residential life, dining services, business and finance, the campus safety, academic affairs, electronic media communications, HR, athletics, the Bulldog Transit System, and student health and counseling. And so they meet to determine and discuss concerns, challenges, and successes that we've had given COVID-19 and our response to that pandemic. So the next topic, volunteerism and community engagement. So WJB has taken an active role as it relates to voter registration. They've partnered, Ms. Erica Fox, as you heard, is partnering with the Alabama A&M Civic Engagement Team. And so they have tackled a number of different events and worked a number of different events, particularly the WJB radio on that side, partnering with organizations such as Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated to help get out the vote. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Lift Our Voice, Coalition for Justice Through Civic Engagement, churches, and several other groups as well. Other community events that they have covered on the media side is the Little Richard mural unveiling. As many of you know, Little Richard has roots in Alabama, and he was actually, I think the arrangements were taken care of at Oakwood College, if I'm not mistaken, right here in Huntsville. And so we covered that event. We also covered the 100th anniversary of women's voting rights mural presentation and the many Black Lives Matter marches that occurred downtown. We provided coverage for that event as well from a media standpoint. Next slide. So given the pandemic and the challenges that it presents or has presented, we decided as a university to engage a marketing firm, which is HA31 out of Knoxville, Tennessee. And this firm is going to focus on a number of things, particularly three key areas: enrollment management, looking to find an opportunity to create increase enrollment over this period, but then also to increase fundraising and also strengthen our marketing and branding opportunities as well. And so they've done external research via survey, along with internal research as well. So they've interviewed our faculty, our staff, many students, alumni, members of the community, corporations as well, corporate representatives. And they have, at this point, they reported an executive summary to the president. We'll have a full report to the committee, to the president's cabinet on next week, and we'll continue to move through the process. We've initiated, per their recommendation, a new podcast, which we'll talk about momentarily. There's a story collection project going on as well. And the story collection piece really ties in the university's marketing team of Start Here, Go Anywhere. So when we talk about the Start Here piece, that's the student component, starting at Alabama A&M, working to gain or to earn your degree at Alabama A&M. But the Go Anywhere connects the student piece to the alumni piece, going anywhere in your career, things of that nature. And so we're telling stories to connect those to connecting the student with the young alumni and the opportunities that exist in the world and how we are creating or preparing students for those opportunities as well. There's a social listening report that is happening, and essentially what that is monitoring our social media to determine how impactful and how effective we are on social media, to see where any gaps are, where there are opportunities to improve. And so they're really taking a deep dive there to study what we've done as it relates to social media and what opportunities exist. They're looking at our style guide to look at the university's marks, logos, things of that nature, making recommendations on that. And again, they're reaching out to multiple audiences. We're working internally with undergraduate enrollment. We're working with graduate enrollment as well. Obviously, the marketing and communication team on campus, along with a number of other groups as well. Externally, again, we're working with certain individuals like alumni. We're working with high school counselors, guidance counselors, and so on and so forth. So this is really a comprehensive effort to really study and assess where we are and what our brand position is. And once we know what the brand position is, we can then put a plan in place to move forward. And you'll see things such as the Story Collection Project and the Start and Go podcast, where we're already implementing certain initiatives. Next slide, please. So in talking about the podcast, this podcast launched in September. And it's designed to tell the Start Here and Go Anywhere story that I just spoke of. And so with the podcast, we interview faculty, staff, alumni, and others. Could be members in the community, could be any individual that's making a huge impact across the nation or the world. Those are the types of people that we interview on the podcast. Our September guests included A.D. Brian Hicks, Lisa Jones, who's a 1989 graduate of Alabama A&M. She is founder and CEO of iMail Incorporated out of Atlanta, Georgia. We featured William Barnes, who is the president and CEO of the Birmingham Urban League, and also one of our students who has his own company, and he's won, I think, a couple of pitch competitions now, Justin Lindbergh. October topics include Alumni Giving, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about more in a moment. We covered the topic of voter registration, where we interviewed Amaya Reardon a couple of weeks ago. She's one of our students that is really involved with the civic engagement task force that we have on campus under student affairs. And she did an outstanding interview and talked about her efforts and the committee's efforts to get out the vote. And then we also tackled other relevant issues that are happening in the country, such as the forest fires and climate change that we see year in and year out on the West Coast. And we not only talk about those issues, but we talk about Alabama A&M's impact on those issues. So for example, this week's episode, we interviewed Dr. Cosma Naka, and Dr. Naka is the chair of the forestry department. And so what you will find when you listen to that is we actually had a couple of students that were out fighting the forest fires out on the West Coast this summer. And one actually just got back not long ago. So our students are doing great work, and we're doing a great job on the academic side of preparing those students for those experiences. One point of note that also came out that I think is very important to say, Dr. Naka shared on the podcast that out of all of the African-American employees with the U.S. Forestry Service, 50% of them, at least 50% of them, are Alabama A&M University graduates. And I'll repeat that. Out of all African Americans that are employed within the U.S. Forestry Service under USDA, at least 50% of those individuals are Alabama A&M University university alumni. And so that is a testament to the work that the faculty is doing in that particular area. Next slide, please. You can go back one. And so that's just an example of one of the social media flyers that we sent out. That one featured Lisa S. Jones on the podcast. Next, please. So positive press. I covered 3 items here briefly, just because they were so significant, but we've had a number of positive press stories over this last quarter since the board last met. And so one of those is Alabama A&M hosts National Voting Summit. As Dr. Crosby and Dr. Giddings talked about, we've done a lot on this particular issue, and it's gained a lot of traction as well. So that was featured on Yahoo News, and it had a reach of 62 million people. So that is huge for us. Another point of note is physicist who is Dr. Hadia Nicole Green, physicist devoted to cancer research. So that was featured on NPR, and we had a reach of 60 million there. And then also alum behind public art. That was, if you can go one slide forward, I think, 2 right there. Alum behind public art. And so that was featured in US News and World Report, and it had a reach of 31 million people. So that is huge for a school like Alabama A&M to be exposed to the world in that manner, particularly with positive press. And so anytime we have that, whether it's something that we're doing at the university or whether it's the work of our alumni, we want to push that. And we want, number one, we want the board to be aware of the work that's happening. Next slide, please. Social media followers. I won't spend a lot of time here, but you'll see we're present on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and LinkedIn, with the larger followings on Facebook with 34,000 and LinkedIn with almost 25,000. Over the last quarter, you'll see the growth there. And so what's evident there is Instagram and Snapchat had the largest area of growth. And we think that's where we'll be able to really pick up more followers and more traction as we continue the social media movement. Earlier on the call, when the call began this morning, you met Miss Mary Jones Moore, who is the president of the National Alumni Association. She replaced Mr. Albert Benefield, our past president. And you see other officers there representing the National Alumni Association for the years of 2020 through 2022. Yolanda Caldo is the recording secretary there on the left. Dr. Terrence Bickerstaff is vice president. You see Ms. Jones Moore in the middle. Ms. Shakita Goodlow Suggs is financial secretary, and Ms. Karen Howe Samuels is treasurer. So I talked briefly about the need to have more virtual events because we're not able to meet in person. We're not able to engage our constituents in person. So just some of the things that have been happening out of Alumni Affairs, you'll see there on the left, that's Alumni Virtual Spotlight, where we recognize Ms. Sarah Hrabowski out of Mobile, and she was the 2019-2020 Alumna of the Year. So that was an opportunity for us to connect on Zoom and engage alumni and learn a little more about who our alumni are and what they're doing in their communities. We did the same thing with one of our younger graduates, Chef Cameron Dangerfield, who was a 2017 graduate. He's a celebrity chef and a TV personality and an Alabama A&M graduate. So we had a cooking segment with Chef Cam, and we were able to invite and engage a number of alumni with that. And then we also had one that was focused on physical fitness as well, all with either Alabama A&M graduates or students. So again, that's just a way for us to engage alumni, to have activity in a time where we cannot meet and engage them face to face. So there have been no HBCUs are having football season during the traditional time, which is now in the fall. And because there's no football season, there's been no homecoming for the most part. And so there have been a few organizations that have approached us about having virtual homecoming celebrations. And so one such organization was hbcunation.org. And so they reached out to us, and we were able to put a video together that kind of highlighted the campus. It highlighted some of the things that we're doing on campus, what we have to offer. And based on what we were able to put together, even the organizer of this event and the head of HBCU Change, or HBCUnation.org, who has 3 children, said that her children now want to attend Alabama A&M after looking at our video and what we had to present. And so they featured HBCUs from around the country. Each HBCU had a particular week. We were the first week of October. However, because what she relayed to us is that we broke the internet, or we helped to break the internet. And so they actually had technical difficulties because they had so many people participating in this online, to where she decided that she would show us for the entire month of October instead. And so that, again, is just being creative during this space where we cannot engage individuals in our constituent base as we normally would. And for the sake of time, I won't show that video. We'll keep moving to the next slide. I want to spend a little time on new strategic collaborations and partnerships that we've been able to have and engage with during this particular time. So the first brand, if you're not local and if you're not in Huntsville, you may not be aware of that brand, but that is Straight to L. Straight to L is a brewing company here, a craft brewing company here in Huntsville. If you're familiar with the industry, craft beer is a big deal in the state of Alabama, and it's a booming industry, and it's actually becoming even bigger across the nation over the last 5 to 7 years. And so Straight to L is the largest craft brewer in the state of Alabama, and they have the widest distribution within the state of Alabama. And so that'll mean more to you in just a moment. The second brand or logo that you see on the right is IBM, and we all know who IBM is, an international company there. Next slide. So let's start with Straight to L. So who is Straight to L? They're located in Huntsville at Campus 805. They're the largest craft brewery in the state, largest craft distribution network in the state as well. So the objectives of this partnership or collaboration that we have now is to create an Alabama A&M University loosely branded beer. And when I say, the reason we say loosely branded is because we don't want to have an alcoholic beverage with the name Alabama A&M on it, or council, or anything that close to the likeness of the institution. However, what I want people to know, what I want the board to know, is that this particular initiative to create this, to have this project, and to move forward with this project did not cost the university a dime. But the benefits to A&M are this. For every case that is sold, the university will get a donation back to the institution. But even larger than that is the experiential learning piece that we're able to provide to our students. So for one, our food science students who are already going on to work in these types of industries, these students will be able to collaborate with the brewmaster at Straight to L, who's also an Alabama A&M University graduate, to develop a pale lager, which is the beer type that we are developing in partnership with Straight to L. And so the second component of it is our MBA students will have an opportunity to create the official name. And so those students are really, for the most part, they've almost completed their assignment, but these students will be able to create the official name of this particular beverage, and they'll be able to collaborate with, and they've already done that, collaborate with my team internally, the marketing team, but then also collaborate with the Straight to L marketing team for the marketing product rollout. And so this is a brand new initiative. It has not been announced yet. We're working on a press statement now, so that should be going out. You'll probably see that by first of next week. So that's something we're really excited about. Another benefit is the increased brand position that it will provide us locally, right? Showing a strong partnership in the community with a recognizable name and brand in the community. And then also the opportunities that could come about in partnership with our food science program on a national scale with the national brewing market, just because of the local relationship that we've been able to galvanize. And so this particular product, it will be distributed throughout the state, and should be ready around the top of the year 2021. So we're super excited about it. Again, it's a great learning opportunity for our students. Our MBA students have really been excited because they're the ones that have been engaged initially. We haven't started to create the actual product yet. So the food science students, they're probably a few weeks out or a month or so out from participating. But the students are really excited about this project, and they've been really involved so far. So that's something we're excited about, and you'll hear more about that as time progresses. Next slide, please. So IBM. So the IBM partnership is this, and you have not, there's no formal announcement on this yet, and we are following the lead of IBM. However, we do have a partnership with them in which they are providing $2 million in-kind software to the institution. And the in-kind software will come in the form of providing IBM branded software so that our students and our faculty can obtain IBM branded technology badges in the following areas: cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, data science, quantum computing, cloud computing, blockchain, design thinking, and Internet of Things. Now, I don't know what half of that is. However, it must be really important. And so our faculty, and working with Dr. Williams, Provost, and the Dean of Engineering, and also Dr. Clark, CIO, they're super excited about this initiative and these opportunities. Any of our faculty have an opportunity to go and pursue take the courses, the IBM courses, and pursue these badges. They're able to weave the IBM material into their curriculum, so the faculty have that opportunity as well. And so let's talk a bit about the benefits that this provides to the university. So number one, obviously $2 million in in-kind software, the IBM software, but in utilizing this software and taking advantage of this IBM relationship, what it creates is a more marketable student. So a student can graduate from Alabama A&M with a degree, but with also multiple badges if they choose in the various areas that I just mentioned. What it also does is, I believe it creates a student recruitment advantage for us, because not all institutions have this opportunity. And so we are able to market and say that we're providing our students with IBM branded badges in those areas. And so I think that gives us a competitive advantage there. In addition, the enhanced learning opportunities. So that's, we mentioned that already. And then the increased brand positioning in our core service markets. And so I think, again, that just gives us a competitive advantage when we are going after students who have an interest in engineering, computer science, and those other tech fields. I also think it gives us a competitive advantage from a corporate standpoint, and corporations that may want to partner with us in the future. So I think this certainly sets us apart from some from other institutions in the state and around in the surrounding areas. Next slide. So I wanted to provide this slide and kind of go through this. These are just some of the corporate partners that have contributed to Alabama A&M University over the last fiscal year, FY20. You'll see Lockheed Martin, Toyota, Iberia Bank, thanks to Trustee Harper, EBSCO Industries, Vulcan Materials, Regions, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Microsoft, Verizon, Aerojet Rocketdyne, Alabama Power, Renaissance Bank, Nucor Steel, Publix, Boeing, Wells Fargo. Those are just a few of our partners that we've had over the last several years, but certainly those are just some of the companies that provided significant support over the course of the last fiscal year. So just wanted to make you aware of some of the existing relationships that we have on campus. So these are development updates. On the left-hand side, what you see is year-to-date giving. And so the bar on the left highlights FY19. The bar on the right highlights FY20. What you'll see overall is in FY19, we raised $3.71 million at the close of the fiscal year. Well, in FY20, we were able to increase that to 5.09 million. So essentially $5.1 million. Now, we were able to increase because of the IBM software. So $2 million of that is in kind. So I want to point that out. When you look at the cash value in FY19, we had 3.44 million. We took a slight dip to approximately $3 million in FY20. So, but, you know, we're pretty proud. We think we did fairly well given that we're in a pandemic, and you know, overall we're showing growth, and we have been able to continue to maintain our partners while adding new partners as well, as you just saw. The chart on the right reflects the number of donors that give to the university on an annual basis, private donors. And so in FY19, we had 1,763 total donors versus in FY20, 2,106. So that's almost right at a 20% increase in the number of individuals, companies, private foundations in total that gave to the institution. So that's a significant increase, and we're really proud of that. And we want to continue to maintain that, ideally grow that in the future. So that's again, that's a great stat and something that we're proud of, and want to continue to move that in the right direction. Next slide, please, Dr. Swoop. On this slide, you're looking at the average gift for the institution. And so in FY19, the average gift was roughly $1,000 per gift. In FY20, that rose to about $1,250. And so you're looking at about a 25% increase in the average gift. Again, that is a huge percentage to increase year over year. We're proud of that, but that makes the job that much more difficult the following year. But we believe we're up to the challenge of continuing to move that needle in the right direction as we did this past fiscal year. This slide, I want to spend just a little bit of time on. This shows our alumni giving percentage. And so this is typically a percentage that it's very important in higher education. It's one that kind of shows corporate America that our alumni are have a vested interest in the institution. And so it's a measurement that all of higher education uses, particularly any four-year institution. And so what you see here are the alumni giving percentages from FY16, basically a 5-year comparison analysis, from FY16 up through the close of the last fiscal year. In FY16, we were at 7.7% alumni giving. Now, all of these numbers look low, but let me provide some clarity here. When Dr. Hugini arrived at the institution, our alumni giving was less than, and before I arrived as well, and my team, the alumni giving was less than 1% to Alabama A&M. And so that was in FY9, 10, 11, around that time. So we were able to grow that by FY16 to 7.7%. So it's important for me to say that so you'll know where we were. FY17, we grew from 7.7% to 11.6%. We remained stable from 17 to 18 at 11.6% before growing in FY19 to 13.5%. And now we're at 19%. And I believe that is as high as the alumni giving percentage has ever been at the institution. So right at 20% at the close of FY20. Now, what's also significant about this particular statistic is the national average for years has been about 8% in the nation. And that's not just a statistic for HBCUs, but that's all of higher education, whether you're talking about a doctoral granting institution or an institution that only offers bachelor's degrees or community colleges. Overall, the average alumni giving percentage has typically been about 8%. Now, last year, it did increase significantly for a number of factors to about 14%. We're pretty sure in FY20, we won't know the numbers until March or April, but we're pretty sure that our 19% FY20 alumni giving rate is going to outpace the national average once again. So that's something we're really proud of. That's something that corporations oftentimes ask about before they decide to provide support to a particular institution. They want to know what your alumni are doing, and so that's a point of pride for us. Next slide, please. I think Dr. Hugini mentioned this earlier, but the Council Eternal Flame Memorial. We presented this project to the board last year. And so over the last fiscal year, we launched a fundraising initiative to secure funding to build this particular structure that will honor and recognize the founder of the university, Dr. William Hooper Council. And if we can go to the next slide, I'll show the results of where we are. And so what that shows you is we raised a total of, this includes pledges, $173,000 for this particular memorial. We had an initial goal of $125,000, and some other things came up, as it always does when you're looking at building a new structure. And so we increased that to $150,000, and we were able to surpass that goal. Of that total, $159,000 is cash. And this is as of the time, earlier in the month, as of the time that this report was submitted. Since then, that total is even higher than that. And so we have surpassed the goal, but there's still an opportunity, a short window for individuals that want their name placed on the memorial to give $5,000 minimum to have your name listed on this memorial, which will be etched in stone. So it's nothing that we will be able to add to once it is constructed. So this is something that you will have to kind of meet the window to provide the support and be able to have your name etched in when this memorial is erected. And our 20th annual scholarship gala. So as you know, the gala typically occurs in April of each year. Well, that was the beginning, or near the beginning of COVID. And so we were not able to have the gala in person as we normally do at the Von Braun Center downtown. And so first I want to thank Trustee Jerome Williams, because back around April or so, when it was evident we weren't going to be able to have the gala, he said, well, why don't you think about having this event virtually? And so, we thought about it, and we did a lot of research. It took time because no one at the time knew what to do or how to do it. And so after doing months of research, we're now able to have this event virtually, and it will be broadcast on Friday, November 13th, 2020 at 7:00 p.m. We've secured a streaming platform to be able to, where individuals can go pay an $80 virtual ticket to watch this event. Drew Hill is the entertainment, Grammy nominated Drew Hill. The individual on the right has agreed at no cost to the institution, has agreed to make an appearance. And that is Rodney Perry, who is an actor, comedian. He's done a lot of work with Tyler Perry and some other individuals and companies as well. And we hope to have some other surprise announcements that'll come in the next couple of weeks. We are actually shooting the gala on next week, so it will not be broadcast live. We'll be shooting it on campus next week. And so we're looking forward to a great time. It'll be a different style. It won't be in the style of a sit-down program, because this is literally made for TV. So it'll be in the form of an award show. If you're familiar with the Oscars, BET Awards, it'll be in the form of an award show. So we're excited about it, and pray for us. This is our first time doing it. So we're hoping for the best. Next slide. So that concludes our presentation today. I want to thank you all for listening. At this time, I'll take any questions that you all may have.
Archie, let me just give some footnote. You've done a really remarkable job. I think people forget what marketing, the foundation of marketing is, building a brand, and it's a residual effect of the future. So that's how you get to that reimagine dollars. We were given a task from Trustee Williams, and I spent this weekend 3 days with a family foundation, as well as a Fortune 500 CEO, and talked about A&M's footprint. And they loved that from a public school, the foundation is laid properly. Some more board engagement, and we have mobilized pretty well. Locally, they were happy with the position that we are with some of the large companies, Toyota, and some other companies. And I spent some time with the CEO, the president of Toyota as well. And one of the next levels for private donations from family foundations is going to be that now we have to get some support because you've done a remarkable job, in my opinion, of localizing the dollars and building a brand on the local perspective. And the next level, as I spent with Trustee Cronkite and Trustee Gainey, we found out that next level of donations and monies that are available to public institutions is gonna take some more support for us to get some awareness nationally. And I think we're in position now after 6 or 7 months of just taking Trustee Williams' advice and, how do we reimagine and get there? So we're going to need some support, but we're positioned really well. They're going to want some creativity out of us and some of the things that we're doing so that we can now mobilize millions of dollars that will be available that the private institutions have already gotten. And they're looking forward to trying to build access for the public institutions. So I just wanted to let them know you've done an incredible job. And we did give some recommendations for some alumni that are in DC that might be able to help us with that, Trustee Williams.
Thank you, Trustee Williams, and I echo your sentiment. And thank you to Dr. Tucker for your hard work on this. A couple of observations I'd like to make, if I may. I don't know how this is done, but when I attended the RISE Foundation meeting a few weeks ago, and after Dr. Scott's presentation and the magnificent advisory board that was there, I wondered how could we get the message out about the achievements of the university with the limited staff that you have. Is there a way of having each school department or be able to package some of those achievements so we can roll them out? There's so many wonderful things being done that are just buried within that school, a department, or that area. And then these presentations are basically academic in nature, so they need to be repackaged and rewritten for the lay community. I'm thinking about things like the hemp situation. How can we get a feature on something like that? Those are the kind of things that I'd love to see us doing. And as we highlight individuals, we have the most outstanding board of any university. I'd put this board up against anybody. But I'd love to see us feature somebody in Huntsville that you have, like Richard Crompington, who is an icon in that community. So I think that will help also elevate us in that community by letting the community know the jewel that is there. But the work that Frank talked about that you're doing, keep pushing. Let's keep pushing the envelope, new ideas, new thoughts, new possibilities, and don't hesitate to reach out and utilize all the resources that you have available to you, including the trustees. But I just want to share those thoughts with you.
Yeah, and Trustee, I want to comment. I think you're spot on, and this is just coming from my perspective. If you take the comments you mentioned about how could we pivot, Archie was working on something that we really didn't have the support to pull off. There's a local organization that was going to put together a committee of some really influential people that we would have brought Trustee Cronkite and Gainey involved, but we're going to need just a little support, because I think Archie is ready to pivot, develop, and Archie, we had some political figures, we had some other folks that were ready to engage with us about A&M University. And I think if there's a way for me to get some support to him, maybe another body, because there's a couple organizations that are right there, but they want us to engage in a more broader platform long-term with them so that they can pivot with dollars in the 10 million plus range. But it's going to take us bringing this community together, which he's pretty close to being able to do that, which we could pivot with Trustee Cronkite, but he's definitely, because he's got a lot of strategic stuff he's getting done for the university. But once we pivot to this next 10 or $20 million as a public donation, I would recommend seriously we look at giving him a marketing staff, one more person, and I think we can actually be prepared to do that.
I would support that also.
And the other thing is Trustee Cronkite and Trustee Gainey brought out some really remarkable ideas as a small subcommittee, some things that we could put together and have ready and strategically just keep moving up the ladder in these next couple of years with the relationships we got. But I don't know that personally Archie can keep the foundation that's built without having one more strategic person, so we can bridge those other relationships, because those CEOs, they want the board, they want engagement from us at a deeper level, and they want to see us putting some things together where we're doing some year engagement with them and their companies. And when they see the board that we got, which I mentioned, Trustee Gainey, Trustee Cronkite, and they were pretty excited. But we're gonna need one more person to pull that off, Trustee Williams.
Yes, Trustee. We'll make certain that you have the resources that you need. Whatever we can provide for you to, move forward, we'll make certain we do everything we can to make argument President Gainey to make certain that you have the resources that are needed.
Yes, sir. And if Archie, if you could just tell Trustee Williams about the folks we met marketing, I think it was from DC, just mention the caliber of people that were already at A&M, that were already engaged in a marketing company that was ready to take us DC level and really engage us. And I think Trustee Cronkite and Trustee Gainey got to listen to them. These were A&M grads, and we've got to pivot with some resources to harness that. You want to go ahead, Archie, and let them know about that?
Sure. So there's a group, and I won't say the name of the company here, but there's a group that was recommended that we spoke with. We spoke to actually probably 4 or 5 groups, but one was recommended to kind of work with us to help build our brand on a national level. Like Trustee Frank Williams mentioned, we've done a pretty decent job locally throughout the state, but on a national level, helping to get our brand in front of Fortune 500 companies. They had personal relationships with a number of companies, just throw a couple of names out that they mentioned, Nike and the Jordan brand. They mentioned companies like Google and a number of Silicon Valley companies as well, AT&T, Coca-Cola. But 2 out of the 3 partners are graduates of the university, and they're based out of Atlanta. So that was just, so I'll leave it there, but just wanted to share that based on the request. And I also want to say, I want to shout out the team that we have in marketing, communication, advancement, and the directors who I believe, I don't see them, but they're on the call. Mr. Jerome St. Jones, Sandra Stubbs, Ms. Reba Trammell, and the development team, and then also Mr. Elman Jenkins, because they do a great job in moving the university forward. So certainly want to highlight them as well. It's a total team effort.
And Trustee Cronkite, maybe you can give a 30-second, we have some things that we believe can come out of this long-term. And I think you were engaged with some of those folks that we talked to that were pretty excited to know that there's another level for A&M. Go ahead. You're muted. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize I was going to have an opportunity to do a mini presentation here, but there are a number of areas that we're really focused on. The most important is the creation of wealth to erase the differential in wealth between white and non-white groups. And the average wealth of a white family in the country today is about 170,000. For a black family, it's 17,000. So we've come up with a way through home ownership that we help promote that would increase in one generation over a 20-year period, a wealth for a black family to be $265,000. That's, I think, really starts to ring a bell. And along the way, we would be bringing a charter school to the campus, K through high school. And with that would be a feeder then for the university itself. We'd like to see more reform in the criminal justice system. We want, of course, reforming the education is important, but housing is the way that most people gain wealth. And what our plan would be to get money, perhaps from our foundation, but there's a lot of details to be worked out, that would buy a home and we would fix it up some. There's certain percentages and formulas that we can afford to pay and amounts to fix them up. And we would lease those houses for a 5-year period. During that period of time, the lease rate they're paying would not exceed 25% of their annual income on an annual basis. That would be amortized at an interest rate that would replace the money back to the foundation. And over that 5-year period, each dollar would become $1.28 back to the foundation. So at the end of that 5-year period, there would be enough equity credit to that home or that new homeowner that's been a lease purchase arrangement to then go get a conventional loan, a regular loan out in the open market and continue on. And when you run the numbers out for a 20-year period on that, they end up with $265,000 worth of new wealth without ever having put down a nickel, but they've earned every bit of it. And it would be generational wealth that could be passed on to their children. And of course, I assume that the wealth of the rest of the nation would probably be close to that number by that time. But that's what we're looking for, is something that would really make a difference, where we could proudly say we have literally lifted ourselves up by our bootstraps. We have figured out how to do this, and we're doing it, and we're making it happen, and making a big, big difference. And we would start in our community. A lot of details in order to get this to work out, but I've run the numbers repeatedly, and those numbers work. There are always changes and adjustments you have to make in any kind of a plan. This also becomes an opportunity for the incubators we've talked about earlier today, for startups from A&M students to start businesses that would even support this operation. And we could see where this could potentially spread across the entire United States and really change the world we live in today. I mean, A&M would be the trendsetter. We would be the people that really caused it to happen.
Thank you. Trustee Gainey, you had a lot of input on your thoughts on what we thought could really be an added value long-term with our relationships that we can pivot to.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of jump in and just kind of reiterate with what both you, Trustee and Trustee Crumpleton said. And a lot of this streamed from the recent articles due to the social injustice race about the $17 trillion debt that is taking place, and how much money is being put into communities, especially around adverse community. And it said that the GDP has lost in 2 decades $216 billion of income due to not to home ownership, Black ownership. And so a lot of this came from what's out there, and how is it that A&M or our name is not being surfaced. So they're putting a lot of these pilot programs at Morehouse and Spelman just because of alumni that might be there, or donors. And so one of the things that we talked about is, how do we keep our name out there for people to contribute, like Michael Bloomberg, when he's giving out $100 million to help with the sciences and medical programs. How does A&M position itself? And I think a lot of us talked about position ourselves through what Trustee Jerome Williams is saying. How do you talk about what we're doing, not from a city standpoint, but from a national standpoint, where people are aware of what is actually happened, especially in the hemp space, when they have over $100 billion being dumped into incubators? Why not at an HBCU? You know, what was being discussed under Dr. Williams' program. So these are some of the things that we need to be very critical of, because it's just not Citigroup, it's Chase. And with the recent mishap of the Wells Fargo president, who said that, you know, he couldn't find anyone of color qualified to hire in these positions. So A&M sits in a position because, as you said, Dr. Hugini, start here, go anywhere. We know that our students are at the top of their game, and even our alumni can go anywhere and be, you know, start here and go anywhere. And we see that through our alumni base. So I think this is what was exciting about working in this subcommittee under the direction of our chairman, Jerome Williams, and also with Archie, is coming up with ways on amplifying, you know, what we have, instead of being that, you know, instead of saying somebody thinking there's a midget behind the door and you open it up and it's a giant. Let's talk about the giants that we have on our campus through our research, through our academia, and also through our alumni. So it's a very exciting time, but it does take resources and additional staffing. And I support that, but I do think that there is some immediate things that we can go after, and I target, and again, I echo Trustee Crumpleton on what he was saying about generation of wealth within the African-American community, in our brown and Black communities across the state of Alabama, as well as our institution being a platform and a pilot for that from a national standpoint.
And the last statement is Trustee Williams. I had a phone call 2 weeks ago for who I believe will be the next governor of Alabama, and he called me because he wanted to slide a coach that coached at West Point to Alabama, and he said, "Hey, I remember that you're one of the trustees, and can you help me?" And you know, we did get that young man an interview quickly to see if he had a possibility there. My point is I think we're at a really good pivotal point where we've got the right trustees, like you said, the right engagement, and I think we're positioning ourselves in the next this next transition with some of the leadership that's already at the institution to start to be ready to get what I believe is foundation dollars and Fortune 500 dollars as a public institution. So the work's getting done, and more to come. Okay.
Are there any other questions for me or my team at this time?
I just have one question, Archie, just a quick clarity from your presentation that you did early. Just clarify for everyone, you know, you talk about working with this media firm and you talk about reach. Just clarify, what does that mean, reach? compared to views and impressions?
Yeah. So reach is essentially the number of people whose timeline it came across, right? The audience. Views are the number of times it was actually looked at. Yeah, so that's the difference. So it came across, when I say 60 million or 64 million, that means it came across their timeline and they were likely to look at it. That doesn't necessarily mean they looked at it. That is a view, if that makes sense. I hope that provides clarity.
I said, yes, I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that, because that's very important when you.
You muted yourself. We can't hear you.
I said, I think it was just, I just wanted you to make that clarity, because as we market our institution and our university, those numbers matter and they're very important as we try to engage and continue to reach out for additional funding for the institution.
Sure. Any other questions from the board? That concludes the marketing, communication, and advancement presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Trustee Watts, did you have anything related to this committee report before we move to the next? Trustee Watts? Are you there, Trustee Watts? Not hearing you.
Try turning up the volume on your computer.
We see you, but we can't hear you.
Try the volume on your computer. You may have muted on the computer itself.
Shown as muted.
Try the volume on your computer, not on Zoom.
You want to go ahead, Dr. Clark, while he try to get that sorted out?
Okay, thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. So I'd like to welcome a new member to the committee, Trustee Cronkite. For your sake, ITS is comprised of 4 sections: network infrastructure. This provides network services to all devices to connect and communicate. Cloud and enterprise application, which does business applications to help digitally transform multiple front and back office processes. Mobile and web division, which deals with the specification and development of web and mobile application. And user support, which provides in-person and remote support for our end users. So before I begin my formal presentation, I want to talk about the temperature devices that were brought up earlier by Trustee Jones. So we do have some of these devices on campus currently, and we have used it for graduation and other events. We are in the process of getting more devices that will service, other buildings across campus. The reason for the delay in getting these devices is because these devices by default are standalone devices, meaning that when you walk up to it and your temperature is above normal, it gives off an alarm, or it tells you to go to the student health office. We wanted something a little more interactive and automated that is connected and integrated to our systems on campus in such a way that if somebody walks up to the device and their temperature is
Dr. Clark? Dr. Clark, okay.
Yes. Yeah, so we wanted something a little more automated and integrated with our system, where if someone walks up to the device and your temperature is above normal, it will automatically email and text the relevant authorities on campus to let them know whose temperature was above normal. By default, these devices do not come with that functionality. So we are working with the vendor to customize these devices for our purposes. So we are at the step where we are testing the software with the Student Health Office. And as soon as that test is done and we are sure that it works properly, then we will bring the devices on campus and onboard it at various buildings on campus. Any questions or concerns, Dr. Jones?
Dr. Jones?
No,
Okay,
he presented it. He
That's the
presented it.
reason for the delay.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yes.
he presented it at the faculty senate meeting, so.
Yeah, that's the reason.
These are going to be individually in the classrooms.
Wherever we decide to put it, so we could put it.
Okay.
So yeah. So we
Dr. Clark, how many devices do you have, or do you have a number you can share?
We currently have about 10 devices. We are getting about 25 more. And with the software development done, we could always onboard more. But we wanted to incrementally get devices based on need. So as the need increases, we can get more devices.
Yeah, I like those better than, I like that better than the ones they talked about earlier about the thermal sensors that will be at the door, the entrance. This seems to be more feasible for what we need in the buildings.
All right.
And that's connected to the Student Health Center or what?
Yes, so these are, all we need to do is, when it comes on campus, all we need to do is to plug it in. It will interface with our wireless network. And when we get an alert, it will send both an email and a text to various individuals in the Student Health Center.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
All right, just to touch again on the student laptops. So the university invested significant amount, as you heard earlier, in the finance presentation on student laptops. This is a picture of the actual laptop and the box that we give out to students. They are Windows 10 devices, 8 gigabytes of memory, 128 storage. These devices are not just computers we are giving out to computers. These devices come with a data card and a data plan. So should we have to close 100% and do 100% online learning, the university has committed to turn on the data plan, which will allow internet access anywhere in the nation that a student may have one of these devices. So not only will the student have a device to do work on, the students will have internet connectivity to connect to all of our online learning resources, such as Blackboard and Zoom. We have bought thousands of these devices, and you can imagine the services and support is beyond the capability of the Alabama A&M IT department. And we have also invested in what we call white glove services and complete care and support. So if anything goes wrong with the device, there's a 1-800 number that the student can call, even if they use the Alabama's help desk system. That help desk system will connect them to the company that we bought these devices from. We have distributed over 1,000 of these devices so far. I just want to mention briefly that the company that we got these devices from is a minority-owned company. So with thousands of devices coming on campus, you could imagine the amount of work to onboard these devices. Those crates they contain in the background that you're looking at the stadium, these are the computers that we got on campus. So we had to ask some of our IT folks to do some non-IT functions in getting these devices onboarded and ready for students. So we did most of the onboarding services on the equipment at the stadium so we could accommodate social distancing. We started to give out the devices at the stadium. It became a little cold and windy at the stadium. Then we moved to the wellness center, gave out the devices. So you can see we practiced social distance and we wore our masks. We are currently giving out the devices in the ITS office in Peyton Hall. We have even sat in front of different residence halls and give out these devices. So once again, we have the plexiglass and the mask wearing. So students were very appreciative with our aggressiveness in getting these devices to them in a convenient manner. Not only did we give out devices to students, we also have devices, and we're giving out these devices to faculty. We're taking a different approach with the faculty laptop. So on each faculty desktop, there is, or desk, there is obviously a computer with monitor, keyboard, and mouse, and the CPU unit. What are we doing here is we are replacing the desktop CPU unit with the laptop. So when the faculty is in the office, all the faculty needs to do is to plug in the laptop, and they can use the existing monitor, existing keyboard, existing mouse as normal to do whatever work they need to do. And if they would like to take the laptop at home, then they could just unplug the laptop from the docking station. This little box here is the docking station, should you be able to see my mouse, and take the laptop at home and continue doing their work. When we remove the desktop CPU, we remove all of the faculty data that exists on the CPU, and we put it in the cloud. So that data is available to the faculty wherever they are, and they have the laptop to use, either in the office, or at home. We recently completed Wi-Fi upgrades in all of the residence hall. This work was initially scheduled to be done in the spring, but unfortunately, we all knew what happened during the spring with COVID, and we had to delay this work up until the beginning of the fall semester, which did cause some inconvenience to the students, but we strongly implored the vendor to complete this work as quickly as possible, and the vendor did meet our requirements and requests, and within a few weeks into the semester, we were able to upgrade all of the Wi-Fi services in all of the residence halls. So now students who are taking classes in the residence halls, they're able to connect from their dorm room and take classes. The vendor that we choose to do this work, they provide 24/7 support. This is an example of the email that we sent to all of the students, letting them know that they have 24/7 support for the Wi-Fi service. So if anything should happen, there's a number or email that they can call and get assistance with the Wi-Fi. We realized that the Wi-Fi service not only in the residence hall need upgrading, but also in all of the academic buildings. In September, we submitted an RFP for Wi-Fi in the academic buildings. This RFP was released on September 21st. We expect to have a bid award on November 9th, which is in a week or two's time, and we expect to begin work in the upgrades for the Wi-Fi in the academic buildings on December 1st. We are hoping to get this done at the beginning of the spring semester, or at the very least complete enough buildings or high demand academic buildings in time for the start of the spring semester. At this time, I would like to just pause and give some thanks to the committee members and the president for their vision and leadership in allowing IT to do some of the work that we were asking to do. A lot of the foundational work that is allowing us, or that has allowed us to go 100% online during COVID and doing our hybrid online learning now, most of that work started long before we knew anything about COVID. And having said that, I want to take a few moments to thank my team who have been working, the ITS team, who have been working vigorously before COVID, during COVID, to onboard a lot of the infrastructure that is being used today, that is needed today. One of our missions was, should a tornado hit Alabama A&M, the IT infrastructure shouldn't blink. So we should be able to provide services even though a tornado would directly hit the campus. So people would be able to go home and do their work, do their learning without any interruptions in the IT infrastructure. Lo and behold, that tornado turned out to be an invisible tornado, which we call COVID. So we were, I guess they were very, very proactive in analyzing the infrastructure and coming up with ways to make sure that the campus from an IT perspective would be functional in any unforeseen eventualities. Some of the things we did was we increased the internet bandwidth coming into the campus. After we did that, we made sure we distributed that internet access to every building. With the Wi-Fi upgrades, we are now distributing the internet access inside of the buildings. We did that not only with funds from the budget from Alabama A&M, but my members also sat down and wrote grants. And we actually got external funding that went directly to the development of the infrastructure. The two in particularly was from the National Science Foundation Campus Cyber Infrastructure grant. So these internal and external funding, we were able to create the necessary foundation that was needed to build on during this time of crisis. Not only the infrastructure, but all of the tools that we're using now, such as Zoom. All of these tools were thought of long before the advent of COVID. And once again, I would like to thank my team for the unending work that they do day in and day in to make sure that the cyber infrastructure stays up and running. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Let me just make a comment there. Being very, very modest, Dr. Clark, I want to thank you for your leadership in being sure that we were ready. It's not said, it goes back to a number of comments that were made before. There are some things that we've been able to do here at Alabama A&M University that many institutions have not been able to do. None of us anticipated that we would have this thing called COVID-19. We didn't prepare for it because we didn't know it was coming. But fortunately, the university made the decision some time ago. When you begin to talk about infrastructure, sometimes people only think about bricks and mortar, but infrastructure was thought here in a broader sense to also include technology. And so when COVID-19 came, thanks to the leadership that we had with Dr. Clark and with his individuals, we were able as an institution to move the instruction as well as the operations of the university remotely. And we basically have not skipped a beat. We have not skipped a beat. And so that's what's important, that we are always looking and preparing for the future. So we do appreciate what you've done. We are particularly excited about the devices that our students will have access to. And hopefully more of them will take advantage of that. There seems to be some misunderstanding involved, but it's the best offer you can find. All of the services there, any problems that you have with it, plus the real good point about it is the fact that if we have to pivot totally, you've got a data plan you don't have to worry about. So just wanted to make those comments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any other questions, comments?
Dr. Clark, can you hear me now?
Question from
Yes, sir.
President, SGA President. You're muted, Jaffe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to comment on the data plan with the laptop because I'm actually speaking to you all from the laptop. I'm not sure how to exactly work it because when it comes up, it doesn't say we're connected to it.
Yes, sir. So the data plan, it will only be turned on should the university go to 100% online. So currently the data plan isn't on. So only if we go to 100% online, the students don't have access to our Wi-Fi services on campus, then we'll pay for that data plan.
Okay, and as far as it goes with, letting our students understand that these devices are free to them, because a lot of them are under the impression, like myself, at first we thought if you get the laptop, the $400 goes on your account, and say if I graduated this December, we were under the impression that we would have to pay that money back.
We have tried our best to communicate to students the exact requirements for the laptops. All right, gossip moves faster than the truth, and we are trying to catch up.
I'm trying to make sure I get it directly from you all so I can have something sent out to them.
Please spread the word. And I must say that your secretary, she has done tremendous work in communicating with the students. In fact, after she in particular communicated with the students, we had an influx of students grabbing the laptops. At the very least, people could have asked a question and not just, shun it down. But like I said, we distributed over 1,000. There's more. Okay. Many students have said that they have their own device. That's fine. But those who don't, this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up because I was like, okay.
Mr. President, think about it as just a hold on the account. It's not really a charge on the account. It's a hold on the account because we have to have some way of ensuring accountability. Mm-hmm. That's all that it is. It's not that you pay $400. There's no $400 amount that comes out of anyone's pocket. It's a hold on your account to be sure that the device is taken care of, to be sure that we can account for the device. And if you were at the university for that period of time, then the hold is taken off of your account. So it's basically, there is no charge, but somehow the word got confused that, students would be charged $400 for this device. And so they didn't want it and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, that's not the way it is. It's just a hole there, but there's no money involved. It's not a hole that you pay the $400. It's there. Once the obligation has been met, the hold is lifted and you're good.
Okay, great. Because I was definitely a student, was like.
Yeah, and just to add to your specific point, I mean, even if you graduate before the 4 semesters, as long as you graduate from Alabama A&M, the laptop is yours.
It's yours.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just don't, we don't want students to take the laptop and go. We want you to stay.
Well, Dr. Clark, what did you say about the faculty having access to the computers?
Yes, besides student laptops, we are giving out laptops for faculty. So if there's a need, please send a list to your VP, and we get that list from the VP, and we give out laptops to faculty.
Okay, I'll make sure they have that information.
Yes, please do.
Dr.
Trustee Watts? Yes, sir.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can now.
Wonderful. I don't know what happened to the desktop, but I'm on my phone now. Couple things I want to say. Number one, I agree definitely with Dr. Hugina because once we had to go completely online, we were already there, so there wasn't a real issue for us like there was for other universities. But even more important than that, on last week, I went to visit someone in the school system, and their son was trying to make a decision last year about what school they were going to go to. And they had chosen a PWI for the particular major they were looking for. And what happened is that they looked at our website, they saw the landing pages that we had, they saw the single sign-on, they started looking at the technology that was there, and they made a decision to come to Alabama A&M. Now, the reason that is really significant is because this is not an African-American who did that. So what's really interesting is that everything that we do counts.
Yes.
And because that we have taken the stance that we have on IT, it's reaping benefits for us that we're not really understanding what is actually taking place. So when you start talking about, okay, yeah, we laid fiber, we did this, we did that, which is basically the foundation. And now you can put anything you want on top of it.
Yes,
And you
sir.
can have as much as you want. And so that puts us in a position that most universities are not in. Not only that, we own our fiber. We're not leasing it,
Yes, sir.
which carries us in a whole different direction. And so through your leadership, we have placed ourselves in a position to now reap the benefits of all the things that people couldn't really understand as the process was going on. But now that we are put in this position, we were like, hey, we're good. So I just wanted to thank you and your staff for that. And because it takes guts to say, hey, I want X number of dollars to dig a ditch to put a wire in and expect people to understand. So, man, I appreciate it.
I thank you for those comments, because I do realize that people actually thought I was digging a ditch to put a wire in it. Are there any questions, other comments?
I had my power's down to 10%. That's where I've been trying to conserve to a degree. But I've got a letter at one of my houses that I shared with Dr. Williams and Mr. Gibson about Alabama broadband connectivity for students, where they provide free Wi-Fi for certain families. And I'm in the Birmingham, this was in the Birmingham area, and I didn't know whether we got clarity on that. If we needed to switch to broadband, could they use that in their homes rather than us paying for that data plan?
Yeah, so one of the companies that helped facilitate that in Alabama is Verizon. As you heard, Dr. Tucker, I believe, had their logo on his slide. So that's a close partner with us. So basically that plan says that you got to, as a student, prove that you're a student, and the company, whether it's Verizon or some other company, will provide free internet at home for a specified period. It's not indefinite. So we as Alabama A&M, we couldn't just depend on that because, once again, we didn't know what was going on with COVID or what is going to happen in the future. So should we go online, we have that option to turn on the data plan, right? And that's the only time we're going to turn it on.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And even though that there is the Alabama Broadband Initiative for students, depending on where you live, you may not have coverage. Hence, the data plan we have on those laptops are actually from Verizon, and based on our studies, Verizon has the most comprehensive coverage in the state of Alabama, at least. So hence the reason we move with Verizon with that data plan. But once again, it will only be turned on if we go 100% online, and it's an unlimited data plan. The broadband initiative, yes, it's free internet. It's not unlimited, and it's for a specific time. So it could be quite possible.
The two companies listed here with Spectrum and T-Mobile for that, and it may have just been for the Birmingham market. I don't know.
Yeah, so it depends on where you are in the state. It will depend on which company will supply you in that area. So with Verizon, the data plan we have on the laptop, wherever you are in the state or in the country, you will be able to have access to the internet. So it's not just the students living in Alabama, but it's the students who are also outside of Alabama who would have coverage and internet access with the laptops. Hence the reason we couldn't just depend on the Alabama broadband initiative. And broadband is used loosely there. Once again, it's some internet supplied to the household. We will be supplying an unlimited data plan with the laptop. Should we open, should we turn it on if we go 100% online?
Thank you.
And also, Mr. President, Mr. Jelks, President
Yes.
Jelks, that's one of the other advantages to tell the students that the advantage of having this device that's issued by the university is that if we pivot and you have to go totally online, if you have the university's device, you will have a data plan. If you do not have the university's device, it will be up to you to determine how you get a data plan, because we can't put the university's data plan on your private computer. So that's the other thing the students need to understand. Yes, I may have my own device, but should you have to pivot from the campus, then you're on your own.
Okay, I will have that sent out through my secretary.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr.
I have to send it out today because the last day to pick them up is the 23rd. So we'll have it sent out in like 5 minutes.
No, we could extend that. I mean, as long as students are coming to get the laptop, we're going to give it out, but we're not going to sit there and no one is coming. So please,
okay, well, yeah, if we could extend that date, that would be great.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anything else? All right, Trustee Watts.
then.
Trustee Watts, are you in two spots?
Trustee Williams.
I can't figure this out.
Hey, man. The slogan is start here, go anywhere.
Lord have mercy.
Okay. I think that would complete our report. Mr. Pro Tem?
Thank you, Trustee Watts.
Okay.
We'll move on to the next thing on the agenda. If there are no other questions, concerns, I did want to back up just a minute on the report for student affairs. I want to let the board know that our COVID consultant is employed by the board. So any of you board members that want to utilize her services, then she is employed out of our budget. It's out of the trustees' budget that she is employed. So I just want to share that with the trustees. Academic affairs.
Dr. Williams.
Yes.
Dr. Williams, may I ask a request, please, sir?
Yes, sir.
The next report is to come from athletics, but
Yes,
we do have one action item that I would ask that we take that up first, because I think you said you were down to 10%.
Yes,
So-
I'm plugged in, but I'm holding.
All right, so but let's do the mission piece first and then go back to athletics.
Absolutely.
Dr. Sloop?
I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
Does everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, so each year it is a requirement for us to assess and review the university's mission. And President Hugan?
What?
Oh, I thought you had said something
No,
else.
I didn't say anything, no.
And our current mission with respect to the strategic plan 2015-2025 into the future reads as this: Alabama A&M University is a public comprehensive 1890 land grant institution committed to access and opportunity, and dedicated to intellectual inquiry. The application of knowledge and excellence in teaching, research, and service is responsive to the needs of a diverse student population and the social and economic needs of the state and region. The university offers contemporary baccalaureate, master's, educational specialist, and doctoral level degrees to prepare students for careers in the arts, sciences, business, engineering, education, agricultural, and technology. As a center of excellence, the university is dedicated to providing a student-centered educational environment for the emergence of scholars, scientists, leaders, and critical thinkers who are equipped to excel through their contributions and leadership in a 21st century national and global society. If there is no need to modify or change this mission at all, then we just need a motion to continue to approve it as is. We can move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Swoop. Any trustee then can make a motion that we adopt this mission statement?
May I suggest that the motion is that the mission has been reviewed and is still considered to be appropriate. That the,
I don't think we can vote right now.
The Board of Trustees has reviewed the mission statement and still find that it is appropriate for the university.
Mr. President, may I interject and say that I would propose that the motion is that the executive committee recommends, because the board can't act today on anything. The board is not meeting today.
Okay, that's fine. Yes.
But the board can act tomorrow based on the recommendation adopted today by the executive committee that the mission statement remain in full force and effect in its present form.
That is fine.
Kevin Ball, so moved.
Go ahead. Second.
Who moved?
Ball, I thought.
Williams or Trustee Ball?
And it's been moved and second by Ball and moved by Ball and second by Robinson that the executive committee moved to the board the adoption and the language will be provided for us by the president of this motion. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes and it would move from the executive committee to the board on tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. All right, now we can go back to athletics.
Trustees Ball and Harper.
Well, good evening. Good evening. We surely are in different times, and after speaking with Brian, he and his staff are trying to stay on top of many issues that are evolving and surrounding our athletics department. So today's meeting, Brian will be sharing with us the different protocols of how we are guiding our student athletes and ensuring their safety as they're representing our schools. So I believe the committee members are myself and Ginger as co-chairs, and we have Mr. Hackett and Nichelle Gainey and Chris Robinson as committee members. We'd like to turn it over to Brian at this time.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. I would assume everyone had a good afternoon. Yes, okay. Hey, today's agenda, we will go through the COVID-19 return to practice and play protocols, our men's and women's fall 2020 basketball schedule, the football spring schedule, and we'll take a look at our 2021 COVID-19 ticket plan, and then we'll finish the meeting up with our Bulldog Strong campaign in which we just initiated. So on deck today from our office, we have our Associate Athletic Director, Mr. Dwayne Robinson, and we'll have also our Senior Women's Administrator, Ms. Kenyatta Walker, and we'll also have our head athletic trainer, Miss Jessie Zugnick-Kumbugwe. Well, before we go into the plan, we have those protocols that we'll go through, and Mr. Robinson will cover us through. Next slide, please.
Mr. Hicks.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson is just now getting on the call.
Okay.
So he just buzzed in.
Okay, okay.
His audio is connecting, so it'll be about, are you ready, Mr. Robinson?
Hello?
Yeah, there he goes.
Okay.
Next slide, please.
Is this the, okay. We will be focusing on doing the preseason and doing the in-season protocol. The timeline being October 14th for the official practice date. As you can see, we've outlined several different areas to focus on. And also we have an in-season practice timeline as well. Both of them being October 14th as the official practice day when practice can begin. And we've also outlined certain guidelines that the teams have to follow. Athletes will be required to work out in small groups, as you can see. That will be made up of roommates and suite mates. And during the full group practice, coaches should still maintain 6-foot social distancing. Additionally, all athletes will go through daily self-health checks, along with continuing to physical distance. Universal masking will also be required. Equipment will also be sanitized, uniforms washed, along with locker rooms and coaches being required to wear masks during all workouts.
Okay, I think I'm supposed to pick it up from here. Good afternoon, I'm Jessie, I'm the head athletic trainer. I'm gonna go over our COVID-19 testing policies. This is specific for basketball, but I will mention some other sports as we go along. So following the NCAA recommendations and guidelines, prior to November 16th, we are testing all of our athletes and Tier 1 personnel. And our Tier 1 personnel are our athletic trainers and our health staff, our team managers, and our coaches. So every week we're getting PCR tested. We get tested on Mondays at the Student Health Center. And then beginning on November 16th, which is 1 week prior to the official start of the season, we will have to do testing 3 times a week. So again, all the athletes and Tier 1 personnel will be PCR tested during the beginning of the week. And then all the athletes and Tier 1 personnel will be antigen tested twice during the week, but not on consecutive days. I'm working on getting the calendar together to outline exactly our testing days so that we will be ready to go once that date hits. Once the travel begins, again, all athletes and Tier 1 personnel will be PCR tested upon their return to campus. We will also be antigen tested 48 hours after the PCR test, so to get our second test in for the week. And then we will be tested again prior to the home games or prior to leaving campus for the competition with the antigen testing. And the reason we're doing the antigen testing is because we can get the results in 15 minutes. So we can actually test before we get on the bus to leave. For surveillance and symptomatic testing, of course, if a student athlete has any type of symptoms, they will receive a PCR test to confirm their COVID diagnosis. They won't receive the antigen test to confirm the COVID diagnosis. And that's because, you know, the PCR test is the golden standard test. And we want to make sure that we're not going to get any false negatives if they're having symptoms. So, and if a student athlete is asymptomatic and we're testing as part of the surveillance plan, then that's when we can use the antigen testing as described above. For quarantine and isolation, during the preseason, if an athlete tests positive, all athletes are in their small groups, or all athletes within their small group will immediately quarantine for a period of 14 days. We've already been going through this. We're in the middle of our preseason now for basketball. We've already been through a period where we had to quarantine the whole team for 14 days. And we've been working closely with the health center to follow their guidelines. All the athletic trainers have been trained as contact tracers. So the athletic trainers immediately begin contact tracing once we get the positive test result to determine who's at a high risk exposure. And we work with the health center to, again, determine the testing, who else needs to get tested and who all needs to be in quarantine. Once we hit the end season, again, if a tier 1 individual tests positive, all the other tier 1 individuals will quarantine immediately until contact tracing can be done and we determine who needs to have further testing and who needs to be on quarantine. Once we have an individual in quarantine, they check in with me daily by sending a picture of their thermometer and completing their Kong IQ app. And their Kong IQ app is daily questions about symptoms that they're having, if they're having any. I check those every day. If the athlete chooses to leave campus and quarantine at home, this is per the university's guidelines, they have to provide a negative PCR test to the student health center in order to move back into their dorm, since they left their dorm while they were under quarantine. The athlete remains in quarantine until they're cleared by the student health center and have received their letter releasing them from quarantine from the housing department. The athletes notify the health center if they need any kind of medication while they're in quarantine, and the athlete fills out their daily housing survey while they're in quarantine. The athletic trainer checks on any student athletes that report symptoms or has a temperature while they're in quarantine, either by phone or email. And the athletes can work out in their rooms as long as they're asymptomatic, but any of the athletes with symptoms should just rest and recover. Student athletes who have a positive COVID test with no symptoms or a mild illness that's able to be managed at home or in their dorm room, when they're coming back, they have to obtain an EKG from the campus health center in order to be able to return to the court. They also will complete an ECG and a Doppler when we have our cardiac screening staff come to campus. For those of you who don't know, every new student athlete who comes on campus, we have them do EKGs, ECGs, and Dopplers before they start working out with the team. And so we do have the cardiac screening staff come in several times during the year, and they will repeat that just to make sure that there's no long-term effects. And the student athletes with symptoms will have to go back through a gradual return to full activity protocol before returning to sport. They're not just going to be able to pick up where they left off. Student athletes who have like moderate or fever, flu-like symptoms or chest symptoms to a severe illness if they've had to be hospitalized, or if they're having any ongoing cardiovascular symptoms, they're going to have to do their EKG as well as get their troponin levels checked, and possibly a cardiology consultation if either one of those is found to be abnormal.
Did you go to the next? Yeah, okay, all right, there you go.
As far as travel is concerned, for bus and plane travel, our travel parties will be limited to 30 individuals for basketball, bowling, tennis, golf, and volleyball. The travel party will be antigen tested again prior to leaving campus. The travel party will sit in the same seat every road trip. Seat assignments will be based off of roommate and suite mates sitting closest together. If possible, if the travel group is small enough, we'll be alternating seats, and seats will be skipped to maintain social distancing. And if this can't be done, then the mask will be worn while on the bus. Yeah, and if they're traveling by plane, of course, masks are mandatory while traveling via plane. While they're at the hotel, room assignments for team members should be made based off of the campus roommates and suite mates again to limit exposure. Curfews will be maintained and student athletes must stay in their rooms and not go to other rooms to play video games, etc. No guests should be allowed to visit the hotel in order to limit potential exposures. Meals will be eaten on the bus or in the hotel. We're going to avoid eating out at restaurants. We're going to order ahead and get it delivered to the hotel or pick it up and bring it back to the hotel when possible. When eating at the hotel, we're going to try to utilize conference rooms or outdoor seating areas. If that cannot be done, then they will have to eat in their rooms if the hotel does not have a conference room or outdoor seating area. Snacks and drinks will be available on the bus to prevent multiple stops at different gas stations along the way. Symptomatic management during travel. If somebody should become sick while on a road trip, we're going to isolate that individual. We are going to arrange on a case-by-case basis, we'll arrange alternate transportation home for the symptomatic member. We'll determine if the whole team needs to go back or if it's just limited to that one person, and we'll immediately test for COVID upon return to campus.
Now, as you look, this is a look at our fall 2020 schedule. This is where we are. This is very fluid. It's changed a little bit since we first brought up this report. Men's basketball, during the fall, we'll have 4 games. As you can see, we have Sanford and Birmingham, Ohio State and Columbus, UNA in Florence, and we'll have a home game in Huntsville with South Alabama. On the women's side, they'll be a part of the Southern Miss Classic. There'll be about 4 teams that's in there and that, and then we'll come home December 4th with Florida A&M. We'll play December 15th at Eastern Kentucky. Then on the 20th, we'll have Belmont and then Austin P. There may be another game that's added, but we're still waiting to hear from it. The queue or the portal for games for basketball, as you could be, you should be aware, it's changing daily because of the different protocols and what different states will be allowed to do. So next one. Now the spring football schedule. The 27th, we'll have home against Alcorn State. On the 6th, we have Mississippi Valley State at their place. We have Bayard, and then we're on the 20th, we're at Prairie View. Then we'll come back on the 27th for homecoming against Grambling State. The 3rd, we will not have a game at this time. During that time, we're leaving that open at this point. And then Jackson State at Jackson State on the 10th. And then April 17th, we have the Magic City Classic. The meetings with Magic City Classic, we're still a lot of things still left to be determined, but everything is on the table. Everything from, obviously the seating capacity, suites, and the events. As of right now, all the events that we normally do year out are still scheduled, and we're continue to make a determination as this pandemic moves forward. And then on the 24th, it is open, and we will have a SWAC championship the first weekend in May.
AD Hicks.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. As far as the capacity, the distancing and all of that, was that just for the Magic City Classic, or are you going to share your plan
Yes.
for the home team for us here locally?
Yes. So
okay, thank you.
Our plan, we will stay within the CDC guidelines. Our initial thought right now will be at 50% capacity, and with 6-foot distancing, social distancing within the stadium. So that is our plan, along with, but we'll keep a keen eye on what the CDC guidelines and looking at what's going to be the most safe environment for us as we go forward. As you know, we will be in the middle of flu season, and I'm sure there will be some other things that happen as we get further. So we just got to be fluid and be ready to make a pivot if we need to as it relates to that. But initially, our plans that we've set, like we did graduation, was 50% capacity and 6-foot distancing.
How are you going to control the tailgate section?
There will be no tailgating in the spring.
Oh.
No tailgating in the spring. Once again, this will be based on the, obviously, the guidelines, the CDC guidelines, but this is our spring COVID-19 plan. When we'll come back to it as we get closer to the fall.
So right now, we have not communicated that to the tailgaters or the booth tailgate versus suite holders yet. Anything?
No,
but that
yeah. So what we're going to do is we want to get a little further down to see what CDC got the guidelines, what other schools are doing, so we can be consistent. But more importantly, just really ensure that we got the safety measures in place. But our plan to release, like you see us talking about ticketing, that was planned to be out in November when we get most of that documentation out.
Trustee Robinson. Board trustees, what Brian is also trying to allude to is a reminder that this COVID thing is evolving daily, still to this day, and guidance is changing. So we don't want to try to make a decision too early, in which it will be changing maybe multiple times by the start of the season. So I believe that's part of what Brian is trying to allude to.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes, sir.
I think that we have made the definitive decision about tailgating. That decision that Mr. Hicks didn't say, but obviously was made in conjunction with discussions of other institutions within the SWAC, and most of them, not all of them, but most of them are not doing tailgate. When you think about the CDC guidelines, it would absolutely be logistically impossible to try and enforce those guidelines in the tailgating area. There's just absolutely no way you could do that. And so given that, then the only other alternative was just not to do the tailgating.
I agree. Now, I guess my concern, and Brian probably talked about this, is as we get closer, how to regulate those suite boxes. Because as we talked about our last meeting, or the meeting before, my concern was there were so many people that exceeded the capacity for even the university box. And so my thought was, if we, being the board, could find another box, and even now, this is prior to COVID, how do we regulate that? How do we make sure that the owners of the boxes are complying? Because all it takes is one or two cases, and then you know what happens next. Over.
Oh yeah. So Trustee Robinson, what the guidelines that we will follow will be the ones that's recommended by the CDC, and we definitely understand that we will be if we're at limited capacity inside the stadium, we're definitely limited capacity inside the suites. So we'll follow those guidelines, and we'll institute, the proper individuals to make sure to help us maintain that. And that information will go out prior to final decision been made. And so they can have the understanding of what the requirements are for those suite boxes as going forward.
I think, Mr. Hicks, the question that Trustee Robinson has was, how are we going to control that? If a suite box has, right now they can seat 20 people, what controls do we have in place? If we say that it is only to be at 50% capacity, what do we have in place to ensure that it is only 50% capacity in that suite box?
Well, the plans that we will have going forward, and they have, like I said, we haven't went out with those plans, would be not only when you get the invitation to request your suite, you will be getting how in the lobby you would get your the wristband. You would no longer get the wristband at that particular point. You would get the wristband prior to arrival. And then there would be a security monitor there, letting those individuals up into the suite, monitoring the number that go into the elevator. And that would be communicated prior to those students. And so if it's 50% capacity, it's a 30 suite box, it'll be 15. And they will be given their credentials prior to enroll, and then we will enforce them as they go up. But at no point will that be more than that's allotted to that, because we will have monitors on each floor ensuring, checking off those the total number of individuals that have gone back to that particular suite.
So the short of that.
AD Hicks, may I? I think Trustee Robbins also asking what accommodation will that be in place for the trustees specific? I think he was, am I correct, Trustee Robinson?
That was the second part, and we talked about that 2 meetings ago prior, just because, yeah.
Well, the issue that we have right now is that those, the suite boxes are spoken for. And what we would have to do is to see whether or not there is a box that becomes available that could be made one that the board could use. But during this particular pandemic that we're in, I don't believe that's going to be a concern or an issue, because what will happen, as Mr. Hicks has said, we will only issue the number of wristbands and or tickets that represent whatever percentage there is that can be accommodated within that box. And so that will be it. So if the suite box can accommodate 20 people and we say it's going to be at 50%, we will only issue for that suite box 10 admits. That's it. After that, there will be no further admits. So it will be controlled that you will not have additional persons in the box this year.
And that's Dr. Houdini, I was just going to ask probably the same question. We know in the past that there are allocated tickets in a box, and it's always tripled the number, and there's no seats in there. So how do you manage the person that is in the box, owns the box, from preventing additional other people from coming in? I think that's an issue too. And then also too, if there's an opportunity for trustees to come to the game, what is it if they will have a seat, and how is that going to be allocated? Because that becomes, as you know, very difficult and hard to manage.
Well, again, I think the issue again this year, we will only issue the number that represents 50% of the occupancy. That's it. No one else should be there. And there should be persons at the door for those suite boxes to be certain that no one comes in that does not have one of those bracelets.
Yeah, again, I guess what I'm saying is that that's the same way it's always been. But I guess how we're going to monitor it this year, you're going to make sure there's someone at the door to prevent that from happening, because that has not happened in the past. Is that that's the difference in monitoring this time? Is that what I'm understanding?
At the door. There will be someone. We will have someone at the door at the university box. We've not had someone at the door before, so we will have someone at the university box to monitor, to be sure that no one comes in that does not have the wristband on.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Me, saving cash beats spending it unwisely every time, which is
what's the capacity for the university box?
I don't know. I don't want to venture a guess because I don't know offhand. We can find out, Trustee Robinson, but I don't know.
Mr. AD.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Trustee Hackett. At the present time, there is no tailgating allowed at Legion Field at the present time.
That's correct.
So tailgating at Legion Field is out unless they change it down the road. But that was done about a month or so ago. They canceled all that then.
Yes, sir.
In essence, what Trustee Hackett is saying, there will also not be any tailgating at the Magic City Classic.
Yes, sir.
That's under the control of the city of Birmingham. So no tailgating this year at the Magic City Classic.
Hey, Trustee Gainey.
Yes, Trustee Frank. How you doing?
I can help them with them boxes. If you've been on the board less than 2 years, you get to go to the boxes. And all the rest of y'all stay home and Zoom it.
All right, Roger that. Got it. That's a good one. It's clear. It's clear.
Yeah. In short, what we're going to do is continue to monitor this. As Mr. Hicks has said, this is just where we are today. It very well could be different on tomorrow. If you recall the conversation earlier from the board's consultant, unfortunately, at this point in this state, the numbers are going in the wrong direction. We also run the risk of having this, in addition to the COVID-19, also dealing with the flu. So we don't know at this point. I think as we get further into the month of November, we may have a little better feel for where we are and what's going to happen. But right now, that's the best information that we have that we can share. All of these discussions may be totally academic. There may not be, there may not even be any football or other sports in the spring if this thing continues to increase and we can't get it under control.
That's correct. Dr. Swoop, go to the next slide.
Good afternoon, everyone. And following Dr. Tugini's sentiments, as we've been preparing and prayerfully we make it to having a season, our season ticket prices as it deals with COVID-19. For football, we're going to be doing single game tickets for $35 for adults. Youth tickets will be $10 ages 6 to 12. For our basketball games, single game tickets will be $20. That will include the men's and women's game. And you will have an opportunity to get a season ticket package at that point in time. For basketball, that will be $125. And this year, as it relates to COVID, we're trying to find a package that will work to include those two football games. So the Bulldog package will include football, so those two football home games and the basketball home games, a total of 14 games for $150. Again, as AD Hicks stated earlier, we will be adhering to CDC guidelines as it relates to seating capacity for our facilities. And that concludes our ticket pricing as it relates to COVID-19 for spring 2021 for football and basketball games.
Let me say this, that the NCAA have sent out, well, we've had constantly different, been changing as, like I said, it's been very fluid as far as the guidelines as it relates to the basketball game. So we're monitoring that and we're looking closely to that. As you look at the larger schools with the larger arenas, they're trying to have capacity of 20 to 25%. Many of the FCS, which we are part of, are looking at possibly only family and friends. So it's because of, one, the ventilation in a closed facility. All of these things have different impacts of what this may look like. So it's been very wide open, and you will see a different, for those that do attend, it'll be a different type of attendance at those games with social distancing for sure, and really the management and having the distance different sight lines, so to speak. You have different specific guidelines as from baseline to baseline. So it'll be interesting, but we're staying on top of that, managing that and getting prepared for what looks best for us. In addition to our Southwestern Athletic Conference, we've received our guidelines and we steady continue to update those as we go. There have been new things rising. So we're just really trying to get prepared and trying to give everyone, if we can, the safest environment to watch our student athletes compete. Next slide. And then finally, we initiated a Bulldog Strong campaign. This campaign was a Giving Fund campaign, and it just focuses on our student athletes and so during this time, continue to have our competitive excellence as we go through this global pandemic. The idea is to assist our student athletes in a number of areas, from health and nutrition, recruiting, and any area that can help them during this time where resources are come light and we're just being challenged in all different actions. One of the big things we got different levels for. The Bulldog level, which is 1,000. The Maroon level is 500. White level is 250, and gray level is 100. If you have not had a chance, go to our website. Obviously, I asked our senior staff, everyone in our department, we're having 100% participation. Obviously, at this level, I'm pretty sure we'll have 100% Bulldog level participation. And so obviously it's for our student athletes and helping them throughout this transition difficult time. It's been very challenging. We've had men's and women's basketball has been going since Labor Day. Football just started this week. And so we've tiered our groups based on when they'll be participating. And so far, so good. But it has been challenging due to many of them. One of the main things is having the opportunity to compete and practice and just work together as a team. And so we've had to really manage that and monitor that. And it's been, especially without any practicing or anything going on.
A.D. Hicks.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, quick question. The different levels, I really think to make it sweeter, and because once we start back traveling, we need some type of paraphernalia, some type of jumps, something with those different levels. It should be sweatsuit, hat, something, especially at the Bulldog level, Maroon level. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. One, this, like I said, is a giving fund. Obviously, there's other packages that we have for other events, but this one was primarily for the support of our student athletes. And when you give those different gifts, your gift contribution changes.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
If you get a warmer suit, you're not giving $1,000. That's when you for your tax write-off. You're giving a hat. So whatever that is subtracted from the gift in itself. So this is a way we can give primarily to the student athletes and to the giver. And like I said, it's just a campaign that we'll continue, that we'll run through December. And it's so far so good. We will be giving a thank you, a thank-a-thon or a thank during the month of November, identifying those and a testimonial given from our student athletes. So please visit our website and our social medias, because you'll be seeing those responses for our student athlete of how appreciative of the gifts and donations, and we'll be identifying those who have so graciously given to us.
It could also, we get Frank Williams down at Landers. Hey, that could get you in for some type of drawing for a Jeep or something. You never know. You know how Frank is.
Pretty good there, Trustee Robinson.
All right. And that's it for our athletic presentation for this month.
Mr. Hicks, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
As far as it goes for the capacity numbers that you all were giving, was that including our students, or, because I know you said like for basketball games, it'd be like friends and families or however y'all are doing it. Does that include the students?
Yes, it includes the students too, if it came down to that. If the NCAA,
right, if it comes down to that.
Yeah, if they said that. But whatever capacity that we give, we will include the students.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
And so, and listen, and we'll make sure we balance that off regardless of what we do, because obviously we'll want to make sure that our students have an opportunity to come see the teams play and be involved in that. So any number that we gather will be, you'd be first in line as it relates to making sure you have allotted seats.
Thank you.
Yes.
A.D. Hicks, Trustee Williams and I, our time is running short. We got a couple more years left, and our fingers. We need a ring. We need to put a ring on
at least one.
We can't go around bragging. I mean, I like bowling, but I want to be able to talk. Okay,
Trustee Robinson, put as much pressure on him as you can. We all want the ring.
That's what Beyonce say.
The ring. We've been asking for the ring for years.
A.D. Hicks?
We need a ring.
Loud and clear. I hear you. Loud and clear.
No pressure,
what's
A.D.
the
Hicks.
commitment?
No pressure.
What's the commitment, Hicks? I want to hear the speech. What we gonna do?
Listen, I don't do no promises like that.
He
got
got
to
a pray this speech.
Listen,
you don't get a ring this year if you're going to suit up yourself.
That's right. You still got it.
I remember when they told me this big high power Mr. Hicks was coming in, he would guarantee a ring quick.
That's correct. And I haven't seen my ring yet.
We're going to get it done.
All right.
Can we go ahead and get our sizes now?
I might do that.
All right, I think that concludes our athletics report.
Thank you. Thank you, trustees Harper and Ball. The next thing is our governance. I don't believe we have, Dr. Johnson Cole, please, on the governance.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good, good. Today, we do not have any action items, but I think Attorney Deborah may be available to brief the board on, or the committee on the Board of Trustees evaluation and training.
The latest is we have hired a consultant, and so I'm just waiting to get with her to discuss what those parameters will be and the timeline. And I'm not sure if Trustee Williams had a more recent conversation with Dr. I want to say Barber, but I don't think that's the correct name.
I can't think of it either. No, I have not had.
Bearden, Dr. Bearden, that's who it is.
Dr. Bearden. I have not had a recent comment. I'll reach out to her and just see what progress she's making, and have her respond to you in that regard.
Hey, Rod, are we still within times of time limit of sending in our conflict of interest questionnaire? Is it too late?
No, it's not too late. In fact,
okay.
It's, I would encourage everyone who has not yet done so to please do so.
Okay, I guess it was emailed.
It was, I think the deadline is November 30th.
Okay.
But I agree with Attorney Stakely. We need to go ahead and get those in. And there is a fillable PDF too. It's
Great.
Downloadable and then a fillable.
Okay, thank you.
I know because I did mine today.
I sent mine.
Trustee Cole, when did that come?
Yeah.
Earlier in the month. It was around the first part of October. If you all want, I can forward you. Like I said, I pulled mine. I'll forward it.
Yeah,
I'll be glad.
Forward it to me too, Tim.
Trustee, I'll be glad to have my legal assistant just resend it to every member of the board.
Yep, please do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hey guys, it came on October the 8th from Alicia Ford.
Yes.
So Thursday, October 8th. So if you go in and search either Alicia Ford or 2020 Conflict of Interest Questionnaire.
And I'll just ask Alicia today to resend it.
Yeah, that'd be the best thing to
do that, and that way you
yeah, because I don't see it.
I don't remember it.
But if you do not get it today, please do not hesitate to let me know that, and I'll make sure that we do.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Perfect. If there isn't any other questions or concerns, Mr. Chairman, I think that's all we have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business, Mr. President? Do you know of anything, or any other trustees know of any other business we need to address?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
Quick question, Mr. Pro Tem, is it I'm trying to think. The president's is this your review or evaluation period, or is that next year? I get it mixed up. There's a review, then there's an evaluation, but it's
evaluation is 5 years. Review
5 years. Okay.
It's yearly or every other year, which is it? You and Ginger chaired that committee, and I have not sought a report from you.
Oh, okay.
But we'll address that. We'll take a look there and and move forward on that.
Here, Attorney Steele, I don't have that, okay?
Yes, sir. I'll make sure that you do. And if you don't mind repeating for me the best email for you, and I'll verify that we're using it.
F. Williams at LandersMcClarty.DCJ.com.
BCJ.com. Okay. Landers McCarty, BCJ. Okay.
DCJ, dog.
D is in dog. I'm sorry. All right. DCJ.com. Okay. Will do.
Thank you, Counselor. So if there's no other business, Mr. President.
I have none.
If no other trustee has any comments or business, if not, then we'll see you tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. It is, isn't it?
That's correct.
See you then.
What is our attire? Our attire, Mr. President Pro Tem, just remind us.
Mr. President, what do you suggest?
Whatever you say, sir.
You know how I love to wear shirt and ties. You know that.
Well, since we're on Zoom, it's fine with me. I've taken it to suit and cuss that off, so I can go just like this tomorrow. It's fine with me.
But seriously, I want to do the most appropriate thing for a board meeting.
It's recorded
it's relatively short, so.
Suit and tie.
Suit and tie.
Thank you, Trustee Robinson.
Yeah, and also Trustee Williams.
Is that for me too? Is that for us?
Yes, you must have
to wear a suit and
yes,
tie?
yes, absolutely.
and tie the tie.
I can tie my tie. I can.